This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Our guest this morning, Brett Norsworthy, who now joins us again afternoons on Sports 56 in Memphis, pre and post for Ole Miss, and a graduate of the University of Arkansas. Brett, I know you've got a busy week and a busy Friday, so I appreciate you making some time for us. I was advised from my co-host, Chuck Barrett, that I've got to dress to the nines. Apparently boots and jeans are not going to cut it tomorrow in the Grove. Well, what would you suggest I try and sport tomorrow?
I would tell you to wear whatever you're comfortable in. If boots and jeans, what do you want to wear, you'll be just fine. Looking forward to seeing all y'all and really glad to be with you, and look forward to seeing Chuck tomorrow. Wish Tommy was able to be down here.
Yeah.
Tommy, it might be a little cold tonight out on that football field.
I'm telling you, it was 53 this morning here in Fayetteville when I got in the car. I mean, I had to figure out how to turn the defroster on again. I mean, it's Stats, it's becoming football season all of a sudden.
I loved your promo about this weekend in grilling, and I'm going to quote the famous Mr. Charlie Burgos at the world-famous Rendezvous in Memphis.
Yeah.
If you're looking, you ain't cooking.
That's right. You can't be raising that lid all the time. So.
And if your coals ain't white, your fire ain't right.
That's a good one. I hadn't heard that one before. That's a good one. So, what kind of game are we going to see? We were talking earlier. These last 9, the Razorbacks have won 6. It's been a series where there's been some really close, high-scoring games on occasion in this that have produced for some exciting ball games.
Always a wild one. 2 years ago was about as crazy a game as ever, but for a failed 2-point conversion, the Razorbacks would have won another overtime game in Oxford, 53-52. That was the final score of the Hunter Henry Heave game, and that game ended in regulation, 45-45. I don't know if we get up to that big a game like 2 years ago and like in 2015, but both of these defenses are suspect in a lot of ways, and it showed last week with Ole Miss against LSU. Just couldn't stop LSU, and everybody – I just roundly reject anything close to a blowout. I think it's going to be a really close game, and I got Ole Miss winning mostly because it's at home. And last year I picked Arkansas in the preseason to win that game. I picked Arkansas on the Friday I joined you guys, and picked it last year because it was at home. So I think Ole Miss will win. But any kind of blowout. Look, the last 2 weeks, Ole Miss barely beat LSU at home. And 2 weeks ago, Arkansas barely lost to LSU at LSU. That's in a 2-week variant. So I think that is applicable to this game. If it was 6 or 8 weeks, it maybe not be as appropriate to compare that. But I think those 2 weeks really matter. Arkansas did a lot of things right against LSU. Ole Miss did a little more right against LSU. And I don't know how good LSU is.
Hey, Stats, give us a sense of what beating LSU means to Ole Miss fans. It seems like that's a big, big game.
Chuck, it is. And to the older Ole Miss fan, I would say 55 and up, it's everything. It's still the rivalry. To the younger Ole Miss fan, partly because they just haven't known much success against LSU, Egg Bowl Thanksgiving night, Thanksgiving weekend, is the bigger game. But last Saturday night, that win, and I've heard Ole Miss a little bit criticized for storming the field. The goalposts didn't come down; we're never in jeopardy of coming down, but did storm the field and had the incident of throwing the debris on the field. But you got to remember, the last 5 times we've been to LSU, 2 of the 5 times, 5 LSU wins. 2 of those 5 times, LSU stormed the field. They went down on the field. They even did it last year when Ole Miss led at halftime. So it's a lot of emotion in that game on both sides. LSU constantly tells Ole Miss fans how little they think of that game, but yet 2 of the last 5 times we've been down there, they've stormed the field. So last week, with it ending like it did on that last play on the student section end, it was no holding them back, and it was a wild scene. And as soon as we got to the locker room, I'm not kidding you, the first thing Lane Kiffin said to me before we went live, he said, "Don't make it about me. It was about these students and about these players. Do not make it about me."
So on the subject of LSU's, we're talking with Brett Norsworthy here on the McCarty Daniel Hotline. Do you think Kiffin's done a good job of getting them past last weekend's win preparing for this team that's walking into Vaught Hemingway tomorrow night?
I think so. I don't know how you couldn't get the team up for this week with the stroking the Razorbacks put on Ole Miss last year and next week being open dates. So a lot of incentive to play well, play hard. And then, and then after the game tomorrow night, you got a week off. Take that week off, enjoy it. A lot of people may go back home for the first time, really since May, since the grind begins. But after that whipping last year at Fayetteville, I don't know how in the world the coaching staff or any player that was a part of that team last year could look past this, because, guys, we know at 42-6 with 13 minutes to play in the fourth quarter, it was one more pounding. And Sam Pittman, he let off the accelerator, played a lot of different players, and the crowd really enjoyed the fourth quarter, and Razorbacks were bowl eligible and went on to Memphis to the Liberty Bowl to win that game. So I don't know how in the world could look past this game.
Brett Norsworthy with us here on the McClarty-Daniel Hotline. Give us a sense of this Ole Miss defense. You look at some of the stats on paper, and it's a defense that in many categories is outside the top 10 in this league. But then you look at the tape and you look at what's happened, and it's been a defense that's found a way to get the job done as well.
Yeah, it's been able to cobble it together. The secondary is pretty good. Up front's okay. I think it's really deficient at linebacker. Don't have anything approaching a sideline to sideline. Really got a game plan around a guy linebacker. So if you clear that defensive line, you're in that next level. It's a lot of room to run. And last week it was a lot of room to throw. The crossing patterns by LSU and those receivers, and Chuck, you saw them, and Ty, you were down at Baton Rouge. Mm-hmm. Those receivers for LSU were just extraordinary. That was phenomenal. And Jaden Daniels, his performance was something. He just riddled the Ole Miss defense. And in my time at Ole Miss, 16 years, I've left the stadium in awe of quarterback performance. With Cam Newton in 2010, he won the Heisman. Johnny Manziel in 2012, he won the Heisman. 2019, Joe Burrow, he won the Heisman. And last Saturday night with Jaden Daniels, that was off the charts.
Yeah, you're talking about the LSU wide receivers there, and Neighbors and Thomas. I think a lot of Arkansas fans know who Quinshon Judkins and Jackson Dart are, but they're kind of curious about Ole Miss's wideouts. What can you tell us about who Dart's going to be throwing to tomorrow night?
Well, it's a little by committee. Trey Harris was in early, had the 4 touchdowns opening day, and then had the one on the first drive against Tulane the following week on the drive that he got hurt on. Then he was out. He was back last week. He was a high school quarterback, and his go-to wide receiver was Malik Neighbors in high school down in Louisiana. But it's by committee. You got Watkins. We've been waiting for Franklin to step up. He's been hurt. But the big key and the big welcome addition to the team was Caden Prescorn, the transfer from Memphis, the tight end. And we didn't have him early in the year. He hurt his foot in August camp, and he didn't get back into Alabama and was mostly ineffective against Alabama, as the whole team was on a day that the offense just whiffed against Alabama. But Prescorn was back last year, and he's the safety valve guy, but he's also a really good inline blocker. And last week was the first time the Ole Miss offensive line really has blocked anybody. We could not move Tulane an inch. Ole Miss could not block Tulane, but was able to block LSU. So, go figure.
What about the idea of Ole Miss making maybe their first SEC championship game in the final year of East and West? There's been some great quarterbacks that have been through Oxford, both Mannings. I thought Snead was outstanding in 2009, the late Jevin Snead. Chad Kelly. I know Arkansas has spoiled the party before. You talk with players, you talked with Kiffin. Does this team feel like if things fall the right way that they could end up in Atlanta for the last time of the East and the West?
There's no way Lane Kiffin would let that even be thought about. He's very much the pro mindset, week to week. After being in the pros with the Raiders, his dad's legendary career in college and pro, including great years being the defensive coordinator for Coach Lou Holtz with the Razorbacks, including 1977 when the Razorbacks beat Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. But no, there's no way Lane Kiffin's talking about any of that. Now the fans are, and I'm telling my friends, I don't entertain the idea of Atlanta unless it's 5-1 after Arkansas, open date, go to Auburn, beat Hugh Freeze, be 6-1, and then play Vandy. And And after Vandy, I would start entertaining the idea, but been heartbroken too many times.
Stats, I couldn't help but notice you said beat Hugh Freeze. You didn't say beat Auburn. You said beat Hugh Freeze. How big's that going to be?
Well, it's going to be big, Chuck. Coach Hugh Freeze did Ole Miss a great job, but how he parted, it's hard to forget for either party. He paid a very serious price, and Ole Miss paid a very serious price. And I don't wish any ill will on him, but I do want to beat him, and I know he wants to beat Ole Miss. I got a good friend of mine that's a local minister that is on a text chain with Coach Freeze, and they talk about things. And he said one thing I don't want you praying for. Don't be praying for a win over Ole Miss. And Coach Freeze understands that, but that's down the road. First thing is Razorbacks, and after last year, I just don't know how any fan could be chalking this up as a gimme W, because the Razorbacks have zero fear factor of Ole Miss are playing in Oxford.
Well, 5 of the last 8 games between these two have been decided by 4 points or less. You said earlier you think Ole Miss wins the game. Tell us why you think the Rebs come out on top, and will it be a close one like we've seen in the 5 of these last 8?
Tommy, I got it 38-28, and that's right around the Vegas point spread. That would be Razorbacks covering the point spread, and it's right around the Vegas point total. I think it's around 63, so 38-28. My Fayetteville math says 66. I think that's right. And so right around that, I think the biggest thing is at home. Shouldn't this series, and shouldn't kind of the State, Ole Miss, Arkansas, when they play South Carolina, when they play Kentucky, shouldn't that really, Missouri, shouldn't that really be advantage home field? And that's the advantage I'm giving Ole Miss.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.